done your bit?
No, not at all.
Pawan, we are good to go.
Thank you, Rachin. Sanji, please take all the viewers inside as well. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another classic and really interesting session on Tiffin Talks. Today we are going to talk about one of the most sought after, one of the most elusive, and one of the most talked about while there's some problem in the. Yeah, today we have gathered here to talk about Hamir. A creature which has really created a lot of mystery around himself, and we have somebody called Arjun Anand, who's an author and a fine art photographer, who actually has captured it so beautifully in his recently launched book called Hamir, The Fallen Prince of Ranthambore. We have got a great panel with us today, consisting of Arjun Anand himself, the author, Mr. Sukhram Bishnoi, State Minister for Forest and Environment, Government of Rajasthan, Mr. Y.K. Sahu, who is the ex-CCF, Ranthambore National Park, and Mr. Mukund Sanghi, who is the co-founder of Pirates, the publishing house, which is behind the book. And we have none other than Saurish Bhattacharya, the Master of Ceremonies and co-founder of Tiffin Talks, who will take this session forward. Over to you, Saurish.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think there is a little bit of background disturbance, but I hope our technical can deal with it. I can hear a lot of background noise. Can we all mute ourselves for a minute? Can those who are not speaking mute themselves, please? Great. Have we all muted ourselves? Okay. I think now I don't, at least I don't hear any disturbances. Fine. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very special Tiffin Talks for us because we are dealing with a very special friend of human beings who unfortunately has been much hunted and decimated, but fortunately over the last 30 odd years has seen his and her numbers rise how, but of course the rise in the population of tigers has come with its own share of problems, which we'll talk about in the course of a conversation. I think the best place for tiger spotting, in my personal experience, has been and remains Ranthambore. And I think it's a lot of the hard work that has been put together, put in by a I think succession of conservators, legendary conservators, who have done so much good work in that area, and it shows. I mean, it shows in the number of tigers that has risen. Also, I think as a country, we can be proud of the conservation effort that has gone into the management of tigers. Today, the population of tigers in India is nearly touching 3,000, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I'm sure Arjun and Mr. Sahu will have the numbers on the fingertips. But without much ado, I will introduce you briefly to the panelists. We have, of course, Mr. Arjun Anand, the author of this wonderful book called Hamir, The Fallen Prince of Ranthambore. Hamir is a story in itself, but but Arjun's book is like a series of narratives. I mean, visually stunning narratives. I think it's really a labor of love. And Arjun, this is one book which will put you in the league of some of the top wildlife photographers of the world. Let me tell you, and I think we at Tiffin Talks can claim the credit to be part of the big effort to launch you and to make your work speak for itself all over the world. We have his publisher Mukund Sanghi, who himself, as I just discovered, has his roots deep in Rajasthan, so it's, I think the book is as much a labor of love on his part because it's been so brilliantly produced. as it has been Arjun Anand's. I see Mr. Sukram Bishnoi, the Minister of State for Environment and Forests of Rajasthan, Governor of Rajasthan, has also come on board. Mr. Bishnoi, welcome to the show. Can you hear us? Okay, I think there are some audio issues. I'm sure he'll come on board. And we have one man who's, I mean, I call him the silent wonder of our panel. He's Mr. Yogesh Sahu. He's a man who doesn't speak much, but his work shows in Ranthambore. He was the chief conservator of forests for Ranthambore for quite some time, and he did some remarkable work there. I think, people like him, they're the unsung heroes of our country's conservation efforts. And it is indeed a great privilege to have him with us. I still remember the excitement that was caused among us when we were youngsters, when Mrs. Indira Gandhi steered the Wildlife Act herself, and after that, the successive governments fortunately took up the mantle, and despite all the issues, they managed to make wildlife conservation a national priority. It's a great thing. I think we owe it to Mrs. Gandhi. We must remember her in a great work. And of course, the latest, we must also remember the work Dr. Manmohan Singh put in to promote the latest round of tiger conservation efforts. I think he really drove it, like it was like almost like a personal agenda for him. So with that background, let me come straight. I can see Mr. Bishnoi coming in and off the screen, but I think now he's off. Anyway, I begin with Arjun. Arjun, you have been going to Ranthambore since the year 1994. How old were you when you first went to Ranthambore?
I think I was 13 years old.
And that was when you were like bitten by the Ranthambore bug. Tell us something more about your, how has Ranthambore changed in these, how many, 26 years?
Yeah, sure, I'll do that. But before that, I just wanted to thank a few people.
Okay.
The opportunity to thank, of course, the Honorable Minister for being here.
Right.
Sahuji, of course, for his mentoring over the years.
Right.
Without him, I doubt whether I could have been able to create this book. Of course, thank you to yourself for moderating this session. Pawan and his entire team, as Wishbox, Mukund, of course, my family who's been unsupportive, who've been very supportive, who've been very, very supportive in anything that I've done. And of course, thank you, big thank you to Vijay Meena. He's more of a brother now than my safari organizer and my guide and he's my guy at Ranthambore. Without him, I doubt if I could have ever done this book. So a big thank you to all of you all, and a special thank you to Vijay. So yeah, so it's strange that you asked me that question. I remember coming to Ranthambore when I was 12 or 13 years old, and there were only 3 or 4 hotels at that time. There was the Savai Madhapur Lodge, which was a Taj property. There was, I think, the DTDC. There's the Ankur Hotel, and there were perhaps a couple of more hotels.
There's an RTDC hotel also, I think.
Yes, the RTDC. Yeah. The RTDC. Venturing out of the park out of your hotel in the evening meant that you never know what you could end up seeing. There have been stories about tigers actually coming to hotels, being seen on that Ranthambore road, where now there are a ton of hotels. Even the platform, the railway platform. So yeah, I mean that is a time when there were just a few hotels. Now, of course, it's bustling with hotels. There are hundreds of hotels. So that has changed. But as far as the forest per se is concerned, I think nothing has changed. I remember driving through the Jogi Mahal Gate, which is zone number 3. you have this big ancient ruin, there's a gate, and you pass.
Right.
through it. I mean, it gave me goosebumps the first time I drove through that gate, and it gives me goosebumps even now. Those old people trees,
Right.
Padam Lake, Rajbagh Lake, the
Yeah.
Hunting Palace, all these iconic locations at the park. I mean, they have been here for hundreds of years, and they will continue to remain.
Right.
So yeah, I mean,
In fact, it's very nostalgic because even I think, went to Ranthambore the first time in 1994, and since then I've gone on many occasions. But I remember the first visit, and I was at Savai Madhapur Lodge. Uh, it was a sleepy town with that one railway platform, which I remember landed at some unearthly hour, because there were hardly any trains going to Ranthambore at that time. But it's amazing how the tiger has been the hero of this entire transformation of this small town. And Sahuji, you have seen Ranthambore from such close quarters. तो आपको क्या लगता है कि ये जो पिछले 30 सालों से जो काम हुआ है शेर को बचाने के लिए, शेरों के बीच जो काम हुआ है, उससे आपको लगता है उसमें बड़े बड़े माइलस्टोन्स क्या हैं, और आप लोगों ने क्या हासिल किया है इन 30 सालों में?
It has been on many fronts. You were speaking about how Savai Madhopur was a small town.
Right.
So it was true. In the early 80s and late 70s, early 80s, Savai Madhopur was known for this cement factory which was there. And that was, I think, the biggest asset there and the revenue earner for the people.
Right.
Later on, the factory got closed. And today, Ranthambore, this tiger reserve, has become the major source for people's bread and butter there. And it contributes a lot to the economy of the town and the district as such.
Right.
On wildlife front also, a lot of development has occurred. The forests were there, and these forests are the legacy of our old Jaipur state.
Right.
And as you know, these forests used to be the hunting reserve of the erstwhile Jaipur rulers. And because of that, many facilities were created here. For example, this Savai Madhopur Lodge, or it used to be called the Hunting Lodge. It was made there for when these shikars were organized. So for the guests to stay there. So it was the royal hunting palace where people used to stay. And but earlier also, this RTDC hotel, if people remember, called Jhumar Baudi.
Jhumar Baudi, yes.
It is also a hunting resort.
Right.
But it dates back earlier to this Savai Madhopur Lodge. Savai Madhopur Lodge was built during the British time.
Right.
That Jhumar Baudi was the earlier building. Built during, I think, during the early British period, it must have been built.
Right.
That's why it's on a hilltop, and from the rooms itself, hunt.
Yeah.
That was how the building was arranged.
Right.
Well, in any case, as you rightly pointed out, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, I consider she was a major contributor towards environment conservation, forest conservation, and wildlife conservation. It was during her time that Wildlife Act of 1972 was promulgated. That was after she went to this Stockholm conference. I think it was in 1970. She attended this Stockholm conference where she was the major speaker there.
Right.
Left a great influence on the world leaders in that conference.
So, Mr. Sahu, I'll come back. This is an interesting inflection point. We will just come back to it. I just wanted to now, Mrs. Sukram Bishnoi is now come on online. मंत्री जी आप जरा अनम्यूट करेंगे, अनम्यूट योरसेल्फ प्लीज. Can you see us and hear us clearly?
नमस्ते.
नमस्कार जी. बहुत बहुत आपको हमारे पास आए, आपके कुछ विचार सुनने थे. You've seen the conservation efforts in Rajasthan. From, of course, you're steering the efforts. Can you talk a bit about what are the initiatives of the present government? जो अभी जो सरकार है, अशोक गहलोत जी का जो सरकार है, वो क्या क्या कर रही है ये कंजर्वेशन के क्षेत्र में?
रणथंभौर में बहुत व्यवस्थित काम चल रहा है. एक पूरे वर्ल्ड में पहचान है रणथंभौर टाइगर को लेकर के. सरिस्का है, मुकुंदरा है, और कुंभलगढ़ सेंचुरी के लिए भी प्रपोजल भेजे हुए हैं. एक हमारे मेरे जिले में सेंचुरी है उसकी रीसों की, माउंट आबू के नाम से है, और वहाँ काफी 300-400 रीस है. कुल मिला करके पिछले 2 साल से वाइल्ड लाइफ सुरक्षित किस तरह से रहे पूरे प्रयास किए जा रहे हैं. डीएनपी में चिंगे जो 9 अंडे इकट्ठे किए गए थे, और उसमें से 9 चूजे बहुत बढ़िया तैयार हुए हैं. अभी 5 इकट्ठे और किए गए हैं, और व्यवस्थित तरह से डीएनपी क्षेत्र में भी गोडाउन को बचाने के लिए बढ़िया प्रयास किए जा रहे हैं
जी.
पूरे प्रदेश में जितने भी वन्य जीव हैं, चाहे वाइल्ड लाइफ में है चाहे टेरिटरी में
जी.
पूरे प्रयास किस तरह सुरक्षित रहे, शिकारियों से बचे, ये पूरे प्रयास सरकार द्वारा किए जा रहे हैं.
जी जी. अभी इनफैक्ट हमारे जो दर्शक हैं, बहुत लोगों को शायद पता नहीं होगा कि आपकी जो समुदाय है, बिश्नोई समुदाय, ये वन्य प्राणी के संरक्षण के लिए बहुत सालों से, बहुत शतकों से काम कर रही है. कुछ उसके बारे में बोलेंगे?
आप सही कह रहे हैं
जी.
हमारे गुरु महाराज जो जम्बेश्वर भगवान हुए थे
जी.
उन्होंने 500-525 साल पहले
जी.
जीव दया राखनी, रूख लीलो नहीं धावे, मतलब जीवों की रक्षा करना, वृक्षों को नहीं काट.
जी.
इस बात से प्रेरणा लेकर के करीब 300-325 साल पहले जोध में खेजड़ी गांव 363 विश्व में खेजड़ी ने काटो इसलिए शहीद हुए थे. खेजड़ी चिपके थे, शहीद हुए थे. बहुगुणा ने तो 100 साल 50 साल पहले आंदोलन चलाया था, और गुरु महाराज की प्रेरणा से विष्णु समाज के लोगों ने 363 लोग शहीद हुए थे. पूरी दुनिया में एकमात्र ऐसा उदाहरण है कि पेड़ों के लिए लोग शहीद हुए.
तो ये पहला हमारे देश का पहला चिपको अभियान है अगर देखा जाए.
चिपको आंदोलन केवल चिपक तक सीमित रहा. ये शहीद आंदोलन है. केवल मात्र चिपके नहीं, वृक्षों के लिए शहीद भी हुए. आज आप मारवाड़ में जब विष्णोई समुदाय रहता है, ढाणियों में, खेतों में रहता है, आप महसूस करोगे कि जहाँ विष्णुओं के घर है, ढाणी है, खेत है, वहाँ आपको हिरण देखेंगे, वन्य जीव देखेंगे. जैसे ही विष्णुओं के आबादी खत्म हुई और वन्य जीव वहाँ नहीं दिखेंगे, क्योंकि वो लोग दिल से प्रेम करते हैं, उनको चाहते हैं, शिकारियों से लड़ते हैं. और आजादी के बाद ही कम से कम 15-20 विश्व समाज के लोग वन्य जीवों से शिकारियों को छुड़ाने के लिए शहीद हुए.
जी जी. बहुत ही ये तो बहुत ही
Suresh,
बढ़िया
I'd
गाता है.
like to add on this. बिश्नोई साहब ने बहुत pertinent point बोला है. This particular belt in Rajasthan is an example for the world. And today the glory of Ranthambore in the entire nation, and now also known not just through this book but other various works, people in the world have seen that Rajasthan people have reflected a special bond with the wildlife.
Right.
And this relationship of the man and the wild is exhibited through mythology, through religion, through faith, and through very day-to-day practical interaction.
Right.
And Sukhram Bishnoi Sahab is an example of how relentlessly he is working with the Rajasthan government and spearheading a project that seems to be now taking the population of tigers and so many other animals that he just named to enormous heights. I mean, India can be an example in the world towards wildlife conservation.
In fact, especially when everyone complains of wildlife population coming down, we are the one country which can claim to have the wildlife, the tiger population going up so steadily, you know. सुखराम जी, आप बोलने कुछ बताएंगे रणथंभौर के बारे में? आप क्या आपकी सोच क्या है और क्या कर रहे हैं?
मैंने अर्जुन आनंद जी का ये जो कॉफी टेबल बुक है अमीर
जी जी,
इसमें जो 150 फोटोग्राफ है उनको मैंने सभी को बड़ी गंभीरता से देखा। मुझे बहुत ही बढ़िया इनका कलेक्शन लगा
जी।
और साथ ही मतलब वाई के साहू है और मुकुंद संगी है, इनका भी प्रयास है। मुझे बहुत ये कॉफी टेबल बहुत बढ़िया लगी। जैसे किताब देखने के बाद ये लगा वैसे मैं रणथंभौर में ही खड़ा हूँ। रणथंभौर में 3-4 बार सरकार बनने के बाद गया हूँ
जी।
बहुत बढ़िया मतलब टाइगर दिखते हैं लोगों को, मतलब बड़े लोगों को जज्बा देखने के लिए कि मुझे पहले नंबर लग जाए, मेरा सवेरे नंबर लग जाए, मुझे टाइगर दिखे। मतलब पूरी दुनिया में एक टाइगर के नाम से रणथंभौर का पहला ही वाइल्ड लाइफ है जो वाकई में लोगों को दिल को मोह लेता है। दिल्ली के लोग है चाहे कहीं के भी लोग हैं, यहाँ रहना पसंद करते हैं, देखना पसंद। एक बार नहीं, दिन में 2-2, 3-3 बार टिकट लेके जाते हैं। साल में 3-3, 4-4 बार आते हैं, महंगी होटलों में ठहरते हैं, केवल मात्र मुझे टाइगर दिख जाए
जी। क्योंकि ये एक साइट है ना, ये जब रॉयल बंगाल टाइगर का देखते हैं, ये ऐसे लगता है कि ये तो मैंने कभी कहीं देखा ही नहीं। ऐसे प्राणी को देखना भी एक आश्चर्य की बात है और देखना उतना सहज भी नहीं है, आराम से दिखता भी नहीं है।
साहब एक बात मैं ऐड करना चाहूंगा, अर्जुन आनंद जी ने अपनी सारी रॉयल्टी इस किताब की वाइल्ड लाइफ कंजर्वेशन के प्रति कमिट करी है। तो हमारा इंटेंशन है कि हम राजस्थान सरकार के साथ जुड़ के इस काम पे और आपके इस महान प्रयास में जुड़ के कुछ अपना भी योगदान दे सकें।
मेरा अर्जुन आनंद से आपसे निवेदन है, जिस तरह से आपने वाइल्ड लाइफ रणथंभौर की ये जो कॉफी टेबल बुक तैयार की है, वैसी की वैसी एक वेस्टर्न राजस्थान में जो वाइल्ड लाइफ टेरिटोरियल वाइल्ड लाइफ में जो हमारे वन्य जीव हैं, चाहे हिरण है, शिकारा है, दूसरे भी हैं, और हमारे जो विश्व समाज के लोगों के साथ रह करके घरों में हिरण बैठे रहते हैं, उनके साथ में बच्चों के साथ में खेलते हैं, उस पे भी इस तरह की एक कॉफी टेबल बुक तैयार की जाए। वो लोग वाकई में देख के उनकी बहुत अर्जुन आनंद जी की बहुत प्रशंसा करेंगे। मुझे पुनः निवेदन है कि पश्चिमी राजस्थान में इन हमारे समाज है, हमारे साथ में जो वन्य जीव रहते हैं, उनकी जो इसके लिए हम संघर्ष करते हैं, उसके ऊपर भी एक कॉफी टेबल बुक तैयार की जाए।
ये तो बहुत बढ़िया बात बोली।
साहब थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर योर सजेशन। मैं लिख लिया है एंड वी आर ऑलवेज looking for new projects to work on, interesting projects to work on.
आपको बहुत-बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I think that's okay. So you know, we will come back to you, Mr. Sahu. You know, yes. Because we talked about Mrs. Gandhi. You know, and I believe that we need a little bit of the historical background before we come to Arjun. You know, and then he can, of course, and Mukund himself is a fond of stories. So, you know, tell us about that inflection point, the Stockholm meeting that Mrs. Gandhi attended, and how it made an impact on our conservation movement.
After this Stockholm conference, which was the first conference related to any environment issue or forest issue in the world. That was the first ever conference.
And Mr. Sahu, interesting point is Indira Gandhi was the only national leader as the Prime Minister. She attended while all other countries had sent their delegations.
Yes.
So while Indira Gandhi herself chose to go in person to this environment conservation.
That's true. And after that, this Wildlife Conservation Act was made. And I think that's the Wildlife Conservation Act in itself is the line or the major watershed dividing factor from where wildlife conservation effort took place in India. And then later on, she also spearheaded this creation of Project Tiger. So when Project Tiger was created, then Ranthambore was one of the first tiger reserves in the country. That time there were 9 areas which were selected throughout India to be tiger reserve, and Ranthambore had the advantage to be one of the first tiger reserves.
And how many? What was the population of tigers then? You know, say in the Project Tiger time.
when Project Tiger started, the figures are there.
Right.
People say there was somewhere around 14 tigers, but these
Wow. Okay. And today there's 17.
but these data cannot be very
70.
we can only take it as an indicator that the population was low.
Right.
In any case,
Right.
thereafter the population of tigers has steadily gone up in Ranthambore, and the area has also increased.
Okay.
The government kept on adding the neighboring areas and
Right.
form a larger Ranthambore.
Right.
Now the government is working on having a larger landscape for tigers.
Right.
Starting from Dholpur to Karoli was included, then Savai Madhopur is there, and Bundi and right up to Kota.
Especially because if the tiger population is going up, you know, I mean, they need more territory. And right now, there's a problem of.
They need more area, and precisely it brings us to the topic and the title of this book, Hamir, the Fallen Prince. The problem with Hamir was he was unable to find a territory for himself. And that's why he kept on to be driven out the fringe areas. He was driven out to Badlao, where there was confrontation with people. Then he was driven out to Karoli side, where again there was confrontation. Then he was darted and shifted to Badlao, this Bala side, which I don't think was a very wise move.
Right.
Because when you dart an animal and make him unconscious, then where you release him is to be considered very carefully. If there are resident strong tigers there, they will either kill this new tiger or drive it out again. So in any case, the thing was that the territory, the area is falling short, population is increasing. And so we have to connect these nearby tiger reserves and protect the corridors. One of the tiger has proved recently that tigers can migrate on their own to Mukundra.
Right.
So
Like in fact, tigers have been known. Tigers have been known to like walk all the way to almost Madhya Pradesh. You know,
Madhya Pradesh is they keep on going.
Yeah. Okay.
They keep on going to Madhya Pradesh and coming back also. Because Madhya Pradesh, this Kuno forest is not very far. Once you cross Chambal River, and the Kuno River is there. So I think they follow these water courses. They follow the ravines of Chambal, then Kuno River, and then they can go to Kuno. And one tiger was recorded going as far as Datia.
Datia. In fact, that became big story, you know.
He is still there.
Right. Okay.
And that was that Datia migration. It gave us a new insight about what is happening in this tiger landscape. And sometimes I often discussed with our friend Mr. Anand and also Mr. Khandal that we should consider this as the Chambal tiger landscape.
Right. So you know, I'll come back to you, Ms. Sawasi. You'll be like the sutradhar for the conversation, you know, because you have so many insights to offer. Arjun, tell me, how did you discover Hamir? And you know, because I think Mrs. Sahu raised a very important point of this tiger people conflict, which you have also touched upon in your book, you know. So can you talk about Hamir and, you know, how is it symptomatic of the tiger people conflict?
You know, so Sir gave a very good macro picture. That biggest challenge now is you know, we don't have more land to accommodate the increasing tiger population. But I just want to elaborate on why this particular tiger was pushed out. And of course, you know, so what happened is, if you all are familiar with Ranthambore, there's a tiger called Krishna, T90. You know, and she had two male cubs. And they were together, and they were sort of encroaching on the part where Hamir was living. He was reaching maturity, so his father started pushing him out, and then of course the eventual fight with a tiger called T64. So he's right that there was the tiger population is increasing, which is fantastic. But even if there is a little bit of a disbalance between male-female ratio, you've got a problem, because now with more males in Ranthambore, the male population in Ranthambore increasing disproportionately, you've got so much pressure on tigers to sort of move out if they want to survive. Otherwise, they'll sort of kill each other. And this recently happened with a tiger called Viru and Fateh. A young tiger got killed because of a confrontation like this. So yeah, I mean, I think poaching is no longer the big challenge ahead. I think
it's more people, people just out of self-defense, they kill tigers because either, in the case of Hamir, of course, he was attacking human beings, but these tigers also eat, they kill the domestic animals, the cows and the buffaloes of these villages. Is that the cause?
Yeah, so it happens all the time. So there's the core area, and there's then the periphery of the forest, the buffer area. So tigers residing in the buffer, there is a tiger called Khumba, very well known to eating, bringing down domestic cows. Then there is Fateh, he brings down a lot of domestic cows. But the problem with Hamir was the area where he was, which was core forest. And unfortunately, he was the only child. So I think mother protected him a lot. So he never turned out to be a really good hunter like Krishna or her cubs. So I think a lot of pressure was being put on him to sort of just run away to the periphery. And eventually, when you're in the periphery, a tiger is just going to be a tiger, right? If someone walks into him, he's going to attack. So that's just very unfortunate that humans have lost their lives.
And as you said so evocatively, that he was unlucky in love.
Oh yeah, he tried to mate with
unlucky in love angle.
Yeah, I mean, he tried to mate, with the tigers called T102. To put it very delicately in the book, it's more topic, if I was to narrate it in person. But essentially, he was just not interested in mating. So if that would have happened, perhaps he would have had a bit of a bond there. But unfortunately, nothing was going for him. Father was pushing out, mother was sort of putting pressure, neighboring tigers were encroaching his area, the fight which scared him. But yeah, but he was a beautiful tiger nevertheless. He was a very
and I mean, it's amazing. You have so beautifully captured the nuances of Ranthambhore's life, through the selection of your the character of your story. Hamir, in fact, is symptomatic. I mean, it's also a very sad story. It's like reading a good book should have a little element of tragedy in it. Like a good novel.
It was not designed that way at all. So when I started following him when he was a younger tiger, he had the most exquisite blue-colored eyes I'd ever seen. And so when I started working on the book, and when I seeked Mr. Sahu's counseling and mentoring, the book's title was Hamir, the blue-eyed tiger of Ranthambore. So I was playing on the blue-eyed. And unfortunately, blue-eyed prince of Ranthambore. But unfortunately, when this happened, it did wonders to the story. But of course, that's the last thing I was concerned about. I think for me, it was extremely sad to see this tiger go. Of course, that does. I'm sadder that humans had lost lives. Knowing this tiger intimately, because I've spent so much time with him, I know that his rampage would never have ended. He was just getting started. So had he not been caught and enclosed, his rampage would have gone on, and he would have definitely killed more people.
So that's a Sausab, I'll just come back to you. I wanted to bring in Mukund into the discussion here. So, Mukund, tell us a bit. We of course know you as a publisher of this book. But a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with Ranthambore and how you have seen it over these many years. It'll be something very interesting because you're the local boy in a sense.
Suresh, I've grown up reading Jim Corbett's account of man-eating tigers, and like me, many others around here, we've all heard of the Champavat tiger's legendary story. He brought down, I think, 436 human beings. I mean,
Right.
that's a stellar number. And then there are accounts of Kenneth Anderson. There is the stories of Peter Bine. But those were vivid stories, and I had in my mind images of how those tigers would have looked like. And only the magic of the words helped me create a picture out of it. And cut to the present, I get a submission from Arjun where he presents in front of me these enthralling pictures of a tiger. I look at those eyes and I see the blue color, and I'm like, have you photoshopped it? And I see the contrast of his black and white images, and I'm zapped. And I call him up and I say, what is this happening? What is it are you trying to do here? And he says, I'm trying to do a story of a man-eating tiger. And I'm like, and have you photographed him after he was declared man-eater? And no, Arjun, blessed maybe he is that he's followed Hamir since Hamir's childhood. And for the first time in history, and I don't know when will it happen ever again, but we have a photo documentation of a tiger starting from his childhood way up till his confinement. There are pictures in the book where you see him chasing wild buffaloes, being chased by a dog. You see him chained at times. And for the first time, I think there is a book in front of us which has a very powerful story, and at the same time, pictures that substantiate that story.
Right.
And pictures not created by design, but presented from real life, plugged literally from the wild.
Right.
Yeah,
I think
can I
that's that. Arjun, I'll just see
Sure.
something.
All right.
I think Suresh
Yeah, I
has
think
got
he
a,
lost power. Yeah. So let me
or is
just-
it a wild attack?
No, I think he just lost power. So let me just add over here, Mukund. So I kind of agree with you, but I'll also like to add that when I first saw him, he was about 6-8 months old. Now that might sound like a grown-up tiger, but because of his geographical location, because of his mother and father, it's very difficult to see. They don't bring their cubs out before that, as opposed to tigers that are in zone 3 near the lakes area, where like Arrowhead or Noor or these kind of tigers. They, on the other hand, are much more familiar with safari vehicles and will often bring their cubs out much earlier. So in hindsight, it would have been nicer had I got the tigers when
You're getting greedy. You're getting greedy.
when
That's
he was
it.
about 3 months old. Yeah, I'm a little self-critical, but yeah, it's 6 months. I'll take that over not having to witness his life.
I think, Arjun, you should also talk about, the debates that we've had while we were getting this book ready, is to how picture perfect photographs should be versus how true documentation we need to do here. And how did you as a photographer take those constantly engrossing debates that we've had?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like taking documentary style pictures. So for me, 4 tigers walking on a road don't interest me at all. I would rather take a portrait of a tiger, a powerful portrait of a tiger in good light than a picture just to document 4 tigers standing together. But unfortunately, when I started following this guy, at some point I had to decide, do I want to document his life, or do I want to be choosy about the light and about the angle, angles that I'm using to shoot, the backgrounds and so on and so forth. So at some point, from an art project, it became sort of a documentary. It added a documentary element to it. So,
and yet it remains so artistic.
Yeah, I mean, that's for the audience to judge. But let's we'll wait for the feedback.
And what about black and white versus colored?
I'll pick black and white any day. I think black and white is beautiful, and there are very, very few photographers who've actually done a lot of work on tigers in black and white. And yeah, I mean, they have this timeless property to it, which I love a lot.
Right, and I think that was another strength of yours, that when I'd first seen these pictures, the black and white looked so beautiful, such a high contrast that you had achieved, and then you come and say that, you know, these are real unedited versions.
Yeah, I mean,
so is it just
guys,
luck, or is it a lot of patience?
just blessed. I guess a good camera.
I'm sorry. I got cut off because of short power failure at home. So I'm back,
Welcome back, Suresh.
And I heard good camera, Arjun.
He was saying your images are nice, straight out of the camera and stuff. So I was just saying, I'm blessed. I have a good camera.
You not only have a good camera, you have a very good publisher who feels passionately for the subject, and then your knack of storytelling. I think that really makes a difference to the whole project. So that brings me back to Sahu Sahab. Mr. Sahu, tell us about Hamir. Arjun has given his perspective of the story. What is your take on the Hamir story?
I'll come to the book first.
Yeah.
It's a beautifully produced book for which Mr. Arjun Anand and the publisher, I congratulate both of them. Secondly, you really pointed out correctly that there is some element of sadness in the story. It's a powerful story. And let me point out, this is the second story of Hamir, which is a sad story. The first story was in 1301, when Emperor Hamir of Ranthambore Fort fell down.
Okay. He was the one who was, I think, Alauddin Khilji.
That was 1301, when Hamir lost to Alauddin Khilji and he died in there. And thereafter, this is the second story. That story was also very sad. And this is also a sad story. The end is sad. This book, it gives a very strong message and raises a very important issue. And the issue is that about conservation, that with the increasing population, such confrontations will happen in future also. So the conservationists now have to think about ways and means by which such confrontations can be avoided. And to my mind, the only thing possible is that we have a lot of forest areas, but they are fragmented. So we have to connect these fragmented forest areas with viable corridors, so that animals can migrate and move there. And
so is there any effort taking place in this direction?
Yes, there is. And incidentally, when Project Tiger was started, its object was to so it is happening. And he wants to. Arjun, please, you want to say something?
No, I said I think you lost your voice.
My voice?
No, it's back. It's back. Don't worry.
That's fine.
So then coming to, you were asking about the story of this Hamir.
Right.
So I know the initial part when I was there. Then I came to Jaipur. But in any case, the story is the story of a young tiger, sub-adult and adult, who's trying to carve out an area for himself. And it happens like a prince is always under a lot of pressure. To be pushed out, he's always under great threat. So that was basically Amir's story. And one similar story was there earlier also. That young adult was named Sultan. T24 male cub. So in Singdwar area, one day they had a confrontation. And previously this father and the son, they were quite often seen moving together, T24 and Sultan. But one day there was a confrontation in which Sultan was threatened by T24. And he must have been so afraid of that, that he was, lying down on the back and he started pissing. That was the type of threat. And thereafter he vanished. And after 2 months, we could track him down, and he was in the forests of Kaila Devi Sanctuary. And he remains there till now. He never came back. He was able to carve out an area for himself there. Amir, unfortunately, could not carve out an area for himself. And that is why he fell into tragic incidences, which led him into what we can call imprisonment.
Right.
Life imprisonment, which should not have happened.
So where is Sultan now? I mean, when you say life imprisonment, what does it mean?
Sultan?
No, sorry, let me just clarify. He's talking about Hamir now.
Hamir, okay.
Sultan found his place.
Right. Okay.
So,
The Sultan just relocated. Hamir is in life imprisonment.
yeah. So it raises a very important issue, a very, very important issue for the future of tiger reserves and tiger conservation.
Right. Which brings me to a very interesting question that has been asked, and that is, can Hamir be released to the Mukundra Hills?
I don't know. I was wanting to say it, but I did not deliberately say this.
Right.
In fact, when he was caught the first time, at time straight away, he have been translocated to Mukundra, or Sarishka kept on asking for tiger males. So either Sarishka or Mukundra.
Right.
Then being shifting him again and again in the same area, he should have been translocated to Mukundra or Sarishka. That would have been much, much better.
Much better. Yeah. Okay. In fact, I think that is his story is like a lesson for conservators. I think it needs. Mukund and Arjun need to be congratulated for bringing the story into the public domain. And it is something which has. I think it made me start thinking a lot about this whole balance between animals and humans. And I think, when we talk about more land being acquired for, say, Ranthambore National Park, immediately I think of the tension it will cause with the local farming communities, and Mukund, which brings me, I don't know whether you have been following this issue, but, is there a lot of tension between the local farming communities and the wildlife? I'll also come to Mr. Sahu on this, but have you seen any tension build up?
So Soresh, I think there is no reason to be surprised with regard to this tension. Man and wild have confronted since the dawn of evolution. Since human beings have ever walked on this earth, we fought against these tigers, and these tigers have resisted our expansion. So I think 100 years back, we had 100,000 tigers in our country.
Right.
Today we are left, at a point of time, we were only down to 1,400. Today we are back to 3,000.
Right.
But I mean, one thing is very clear. We both know, man and tiger, we both know that we need to exist on this planet with our limited land resource.
Right.
And unless today we are in authority, today the tiger is not in command, unfortunately, though he remains the king, but humans are in command, and we have to consciously think, how much do we want to ensure the survival of this species? And I think looking at this book, you will be reminded that we can't do away with it at all. and any bit that we will do will go a long way in our own existence on this planet.
Right. I think it's a very good way of putting it, and I think Mr. Sahu, your thoughts on it, because are conservators seriously looking into this issue, and are there proposals of how to contain this conflict? You cannot end it, but you can at least contain it.
Everybody is seriously looking into it, and I think they are too serious. But the thing is, things do not happen. One very important aspect is village relocation. Everybody talks about it, but things are not going in the right direction. You see, I take you back to 1976. That time when Fateh Singh Ji was Mr. Fateh Singh Rathod, he was the builder, and 12 villages were shifted out. They were undoubtedly small villages, but they were spread out all over the place. Anakpura was there, Berda again, where this Hamir was born. There was a small village there.
Right.
Anakpura was there, village there, Lakarda was village. There were 12 villages spread all around this park. And in 76, they were relocated. Had they not been relocated, there would have been no Ranthambore today. This much I can guarantee.
You're right. But the problem is
villages would have grown in population,
right,
and there would have been roads and transport, everything, and so nothing would have been there. So it
was
was
the problem, Mr. Sahu, sorry to interject, but the problem today is that Ranthambore has created an economy which is far surpassed the scale that Mr. Rathod, Mr. Fateh Singh Rathod must have seen in his lifetime. So now it is impossible to contain the human habitation. So I'm sure the villages around Ranthambore are thriving today. No?
There are two things. There are a number of villages still inside the critical tiger habitat. So first of all, the village relocation program should be taken up in real earnestness. And by real earnestness, I mean, what is holding people back? That government is not very liberal with the compensation package. The package was decided 10 years back.
Right.
So 10 years back, it was 10 lakh rupees. Now, 12 years back, now that doesn't have a value of 10 lakh today.
That's right.
With the inflation.
Right.
So this thing should be, village relocation should be taken up as a measure of social welfare rather than a wildlife welfare project, because those people who are living in these villages, they are also devoid of basic facilities, electricity, water. Life is not easy there. Education, there are no schools there. So they also lead their life away from the mainstream. So it should be as a human social welfare measure, and these villages should be relocated outside, and so that to bring them in the mainstream of development. And with that, I think if it is projected in this manner, then probably government will allocate more funds.
Right.
Because for wildlife alone, government is very miserly. They don't want to allocate fund for wildlife conservation. But for people, it will be easier for them to allocate more funds, and then they should be very, very liberal with people who are being displaced.
I think that means the rural development and the wildlife departments need to work in tandem, here, because this is indeed, I mean, like as much a part of rural development work as it is, what wildlife conservation. I think there's a big point here. I also feel that compensation should be inflation indexed. Right now, there is no such, unless you amend the act or amend the bylaws, you can never change the compensation.
No, you see, so far, I think wildlife people have also, posed it in only as a wildlife conservation project. It should have been posed in a very clever manner as a social welfare project also,
Yeah.
to attract funds from the government. And during the tenure, in the last government's tenure, one good thing was that there was a core group of people, which included Mr. Valmik Thapar was there,
Right.
and one Mr. DG Ajit Singh was there. He used to be DG Police,
Right.
and the additional Chief Secretary, Mr. NC Goyal, was there.
Right.
During that time, a lot of exercise was done to revise the package and make it more and more attractive. And
Right.
Mr. NC Goyal was very good. His way of thinking was different. His way of thinking was that we should do more for the people and we should make the package so attractive
Right.
that the villagers will themselves come forward that they want to move on.
So they become stakeholders. They become stakeholders.
And
Yes,
one small village moving out
Right.
means you create a territory for at least 2 tigers, one male, one female. Like during my time there, we were able to relocate village like Bhed and Kathuli Padra. These villages, these areas now are having tigers there. They are territories for many tigers. Because one village, small village, it affects area of 10 square kilometers. That's the zone of disturbance.
Okay.
So this is
And that's, I mean, that can host 2 tigers. I mean,
one small village. You relocate one small village, it
right.
will remove disturbance from 10 square kilometers.
Wow.
So which is an area required for 2 tigers.
2 tigers. Yeah.
So this is very, very important.
Right.
And government should take it up on priority.
Right. So, Arjun, coming to you there, I'll first ask you a question which Dhanesh Mewala has asked, and he says, Arjun, do you think that the increase in nature photography is unknowingly altering the behavior of the species? I mean, on a lighter note, let me add one thing. Someone was just saying that the tigers of Ranthambore are like Bollywood stars. The moment they see a camera, they know where and how to pose and when to pose.
Some tigers, sure. Some tigers are like that. But to answer this question, I think there has been certain issues with photographers sort of crossing that boundary. I think being ethical when it comes to wildlife photography is so important, because what is happening is
done. I've sent it.
Okay, what's happening?
I sent the corrections to her.
Hi. Yeah. So, sorry. Could I hear someone speak? Or?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah. So I was saying. Sorry, just give me 1 second, please. Yeah. So I was saying, yes, it is causing a problem, because some people cross that line. There have been incidents of guides, drivers, and photographers actually pelting tigers with stones to sort of, initiate some kind of reaction.
Right.
So it does cause some problems. So there was this time where there was this debate going on whether full day safaris should continue or not. And the problem is, as a photographer, when I was out on regular, I don't like full day safaris. Especially at Ranthambore, because most of the day the sunlight is too harsh for photography.
Right.
Right. But what was happening is, when you started going for your regular safaris, you were seeing that the tigers would choose water holes that were sort of tucked inside the thicket, as opposed to sort of out where they used to at one. So, sir, in Berda, where that water is outside, Mr. Sahu will know what I'm talking about. They would stop to that water hole. They would sort of they would hide. and of course, this was bad for all kinds of photographers, because the tigers were no longer being, besides a few, of course, there are certain tigers that are like Arrowhead and Noor and her cubs, and they were very bold. But yeah, I mean, this was.
They love to be photographed.
Yeah, they love to be photographed. Yeah, and they'll walk around midday, open, without any tree cover, midday. Rajasthan summer, they don't care. But yeah, otherwise, this is causing a problem, and I think management needs to sort of put its foot down and regulate photographers and activities at Ranthambore.
Right. Okay. So, which is it's a matter of concern. Now, Mukund, you've been hearing us talk, and you've heard Mr. Sahu's inputs. What do you think is the way forward for Ranthambore? I mean, do you think how can we prevent more Hamirs from happening?
I think as a publisher and as a wonderful photographer and author, we are doing our bit, making people sensitive, making people aware, and also making humans realize of our humility. Right. If we can get these three things in check, the technicalities, Mr. Sahu and Honorable Minister would know better. I am nobody to comment on that. But as a human being, as a citizen of this country, of this state, of this region, I feel all we need to do is to feel for these animals, treat them. Arjun, I remember once said, I humanize these tigers when I take a picture of them, and that thing stuck to me. I think that's what we intend to do through this book, and if that happens well, we have a bright future as a community and tigers as a species.
Fantastic. That's a very good thought, and it also makes this book so special, I think, to all of us. I will come to Arjun. You have said that the proceeds of this book, the sale of this book, will go for tiger conservation, especially Ranthambore.
I'd like to make a clarification. I think the Ranthambore department, the forest department, Ranthambore is well capitalized. Right. So I want to use these funds for unprivileged children that sort of live on the periphery of the park. I've seen. I'm fortunate to go and see them in schools and stuff. And I've seen the conditions, and I think whatever I can do, and I hope I can do something. I'd love to do for those kids, because it's unfair for them that we go and get expensive hotels, pay expensive safaris, have big cameras, but unfortunately, I think a very small portion of the revenue that gets generated comes down to the local community.
Do you think the development that is taking place in Ranthambore, and now it's quite serious development that is taking place there, is it percolating down to the villages? Like Mr. Sahu was saying, there are not even proper electricity, water connections. There are no roads or proper schools in these villages. Why is there such a distance?
I think, of course, people who are involved with the trade directly, guides, drivers, of course, they are doing well. They are doing well. They have nice homes, air conditioning, cars, and so on and so forth. But of course, people who are not directly involved, those are the people who are not developing. And of course, Mr. Sahu will agree on this point that unless we can uplift the all the stakeholders, including these people, that wildlife conservation is always going to have a little bit of a hiccup as regards this small issue. Just recently, what happened in Bandhavgarh? Just take what happened in Bandhavgarh. 3, 4, 5 tigers apparently were poisoned and killed.
Absolutely, it's a scandalous thing. News,
So again, this also highlights
Right.
that it's very easy for us to point fingers at the forest department, but
Right.
on ground reality, and I've seen them. I've been fortunate to see them in action, right?
Right.
And the reality is very different, because whatever it is, you are offending at least someone, whenever you make
Right.
any decision. So you make the
Right.
decision of capturing Hamid, you are offending certain community. You want to release him, then you're offending. So they have to juggle so many different balls at
That's
the same time. It's as
it's,
remarkable.
it's not an easy job to be a
Oh yeah,
conservator.
it's not.
We'll come back to Mr. Sahu. He'll have the last word. But Arjun, why don't you show some of your pictures? I mean, is it possible to do you have the book around with you?
I have a physical book in the other room. I don't have.
Okay.
I actually wanted to do this, Arjun. Why don't we actually do a virtual kind of a thing, and Mukund can pick up a book, you
Fantastic.
can pick one. Yeah. And sorry, sir has a copy as well. I got it delivered to him. So sorry, you can pick one copy.
Yeah. No, but Mukund, any particular picture you want to highlight?
Yeah, exactly.
Let us see what's inside the book.
Let me take you to the book. This is
Wow.
a special publisher's bag. I don't think others get to have it. So we pull out the book.
And how much have you priced the book, Mukund?
Oh, it's damn cheap. It's precious and damn cheap.
Okay, right. And where can we get it? Amazon?
It's our mission to take it to the world. It's available Amazon India, Amazon worldwide. It's also available through various bookstores around you. Arjun Anand's own website, our publisher's website has it, and you're going to be seeing it a lot around, but almost all e-commerce platforms would obviously have it.
Right.
So this is the book. I hold it in my hand. For those who haven't seen it yet, do you see the cover? And it's a thick book. It's a very heavy one.
Right.
And I would like to take you to some of my favorite pictures, but this is a signed edition. Thank you, Arjun. If there is one treasure I leave for my children, it's going to be the first edition of this book.
He's too kind with compliments.
It's very hard to pick favorites, but of course, Arjun is a master of black and white. So you got to see his dark contrasts, deep blacks, and well-lit tiger. I mean, it looks like staged.
That's Krishna T19.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take you forward.
Arjun, you know all the tigers almost like personally, as if they are old friends.
I mean, a lot of the tigers that I have followed. Yes, I know them. Because as a photographer, you need to know their behavior. You can approach a certain tiger, you cannot approach a certain tiger. And I've been attacked by a few, and you have to
live with it.
That's
professional hazard. Wow, that's Noor, huh?
Yeah, that's Noor. Yeah, she's gorgeous tiger.
So this is world famous Noor. Everyone's heard of her, but I don't think I've ever seen a picture of Noor as magnificent as this one.
Right.
I think I'm overselling the product.
Okay.
Arjun is showing me eyes.
No, please go ahead. Products should be oversold, and
if you've done a book and if you've worked for it for almost a year, I think it happens very naturally, and I have to hold myself back. I want to show you some of the poignant pictures from the book. They're not necessarily as artistic as you want them to be, but this is Arjun. You want to speak about this?
Yeah. So this picture, I was with Vijay, my safari organizer, my right-hand man in Ranthambore, and he'd gotten injured. And it's a very short story, but this is an important story. Now, again, talks about man and human conflict. And there, so the tiger was on a farm and he was injured because he had a fight. He had an injury on one of his paws and he couldn't hunt. He could barely walk. And we were calling up the members of the forest department, and he was outside the park. He was on private land, and he actually ran after a human being, a goat herder, and Vijay was very efficient in sort of navigating that terrain, that mountainous rocky terrain and got to the goat herder first, and we got him in the car. So unfortunately, we couldn't protect the goats. I think he lost a couple of goats that day. So this is the next day when he was tranquilized and treated, and after that he was sort of put back in the park.
Okay. So again, like lovely how each picture comes with a story. You know, that's I think what makes this whole work so meaningful to all of us. You know? While Mukund, Mukund, I will give you a little more time, little later, to show more pictures. You know.
Okay, thank you.
Let's have Mr. Sahu talk about what are the problems. You know, we have heard everyone. What are the challenges a conservator faces in such a situation? You know, where you're being pulled in different directions by your concern for people around you, and of course your love and your first priority, the tigers.
One has to balance both. Fortunately, the people of Sawai Madhopur district and also Karoli, they are very accommodative towards wild animals. And they have been seeing these animals since their childhood. So they accept them as a part of the landscape. A tiger coming in the agriculture field, they don't make a big issue out of it, unless something bad happens, some tragedy happens. So that is there. But, you know, there are some factors. Like if you go to the village, they'll be complaining about crop raiding by herbivores, like wild boar and blue bulls and sambars. This much I think. It's a real genuine problem. So in that aspect, government should intervene and make some inputs. And like Mr. Anand, he rightly pointed out, Ranthambore is not, suffering for funds nowadays. There is a lot of funds in the foundation, which are not being spent. So that amount should be used to facilitate the villagers, and so that this feeling of enmity towards wild animals lessens.
Right.
Issues like crop raiding, it can be taken, and other things. Also, how we can.
I think so.
Use confrontation.
Yes. Precarious balance between humans and animals has to be maintained, and I think everyone has to work together. And I think Arjun, by committing the proceeds of this book to the education of deprived children, I think you're showing how the community that benefits a lot from Ranthambore can give back something. What are the other ways in which we can give back to Ranthambore?
One more thing is there. I'd like to point out that we started a program there called Village Wildlife Volunteers. This means it was a joint effort of Forest Department and Tiger Watch, which is managed by Mr. Dharmendra Khandu. So still that program is there. Now, at present, there are 50 odd village wildlife volunteers. And you meet them, we published a literature also about them. These guys, they are fantastic. And the concept was that these people, they are doing what they used to do in the villages. Some are goat herders. So they continue to have their profession. Apart from that, they also volunteer for wildlife conservation. Okay. And since they are living in the villages all around the park, they are the first people to be on site wherever there is confrontation or an animal moves out. And it has been seen now that they are the first ones who are reporting animal movement out of the tiger reserve or confrontation. and the data they have generated about wildlife is phenomenal. So we had a plan that we should expand this program further. And though it is very difficult, having good volunteers, finding good volunteers and inducting them. So that is a challenging task, but it can be done. And by doing this, you can create a network of people all around the tiger reserve who have sympathy for wild animals, who are working for wildlife conservation, apart from they're doing their own thing. And in return, they get some funds also. So they benefit, their livelihood is also enhanced because of wildlife conservation. So that way, they are being helped directly, the people, local people from wildlife conservation. And wildlife conservation can benefit if this program becomes big enough. So this can be one field in which one can explore possibilities.
That's great.
Can I just
So Arjun, please.
can I just address this question by Mr. Khan, Shoaib
Yeah.
Khan?
Shoaib Khan, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Why can't we focus on other reserves? So first of all, Rajasthan government will focus on Rajasthan reserves, right? We can't focus on other outside the state. But I think they are focusing on other parts. But like I said, like Mr. Sahu said, the challenge is today, I think because the system is so democratic, relocating a village means that you have 300 people standing up against you, So sometimes, if you were to give them free rein to do what they want, I'm sure they'll be able to do it in the next 1 month. They'll make Mukandra safe. We've lost tigers in Mukandra. They'll make Mukandra safe. They'll make, Sariska safe by relocating villages out. But I'm sure if you are a Rajasthani, you lived in Rajasthan, you know what the ground reality is. It's not easy today. Too democratic. Too many people have an opinion, and that's a very, very big challenge for members of the forest department. And I say this because I have interacted with a lot of people, and they are hesitant sometimes to take action, which I think they should be able to take without thinking, because they start thinking about repercussions even before they start doing something. And of course, that will hinder anything that anything constructive they want to do. So that's a big challenge for these guys.
I think again, as usual, very, very thought-provoking. I think we will we are sort of coming to the end of the show, but not before a little more like some more viewings from the lovely book Hamir, The Fallen Prince. So
Arjun, would you want to talk about this?
That's the tiger running after buffaloes. There's a dog. The tiger runs after the dog. The dog runs away. The tiger runs after the buffaloes again, and the buffalo runs after the tiger. It was a hilarious scene. It felt straight out of a Nat Geo documentary. Fortunately, I was only carrying my still camera. Otherwise, I would have loved to document it on film.
It's a YouTube viral video waiting to be made.
Yeah, and you'll be surprised. That was a farmhouse that had humans just outside the screen I was shooting. So
wow, really?
That's scary,
Okay, that's as close as that. Huh? So,
yeah, it's as close as that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Good. I mean, one lives and learns, as I say, And today, I think the past hour and 15 minutes have been so full of information, so full of something. It's also so infectious. The passion is so infectious. It's really nice to see that people are thinking in the right direction on the very important issue of animal-people conflict. Conservators like Mrs. Sahu are doing really good work, and Arjun, I think you have done a fantastic job in chronicling this story, and you found a great partner in Mukund who believes in your project, who believes in Rajasthan, and who believes in the the country's wildlife wealth. I think it's a great project. I'm sure this is first of many. I'm sure you would like to take up. I mean, I would personally be delighted if you could take up the suggestion of the Honorable Minister to do something on the Bishnoi community, because I think they're doing amazing work, even now. Of course, your focus is more on
Paresh, it is
wildlife.
impossible to take the artist out of Arjun. I must warn you, you can't push him to do journalism at all.
So I think I like to not double as a,
Please,
like
yeah, we should talk separately.
No, but on a serious note, the black bucks and the other animals that you find in Rajasthan, they're brilliant. They're extremely beautiful, beautiful animals. And I would love the opportunity to.
And again, there is a little bit of a people-animal conflict developing there, because people feel that the black buck population is going beyond control, But I guess that's the subject of another discussion. One can keep having these discussions forever. But Mukund, may your tribe increase, may publishers like you be more than one. I think, I'm sure.
Like tigers.
Yeah, okay, great, fantastic. But I'm sure we'll make you like other subjects as well, and get excited about them. Well, thank you so much. We have had a great conversation. And Ruchin, customarily you always close the proceedings, and you're a wildlife enthusiast yourself.
Sir,
can we see yourself?
I hand over this to Pawan today.
Okay.
Ruchin has been.
You've been escaping this duty for too long,
No, Ruchin, actually, sir, to be honest, it's just been really, really crazy busy with Zoom meetings all day. Perhaps he's just too out wide right now. He has sent me personal texts that where can I get the book, and I told him that I'll get one for him. But thank you so much, guys. I mean, all the panelists, Arjun, Mukund, Sau sir, Mr. Bishnoi, of course, who had to leave in between, and Saurish sir, of course, chairing this and managing this so well. I think we have not just looked at pictures, we have looked at stories against each pictures, and all those stories also sort of encapsulate everything which we discussed today about the human-wildlife conflict, the fact that the tiger population is increasing, and that's a great sign, but at the same time, it comes with its own set of problems, and how, people like Mr. Sahu, people like Mukund, who are obviously believing in this subject, and of course, Arjun, the master here who came out with this thought of chronicling the life of one of the most loved creatures. I mean, one of the most amazing creatures in the wildlife ecosystem ever. I think this will end up as one of our better discussions we have had on Tiffin Talks. Many more to you, Arjun. I wish you all the best on behalf of Tiffin Talks for the book, and to Pirates, that may you sell many copies, not just in India, but internationally as well. Guys, this session is going live on Facebook. We will be putting this on our YouTube channel on Tiffin Talks as well. Please follow us on our Facebook and on Instagram. We are both there. We are on all social media handles with the same name, Tiffin Talks. And keep spreading the love, keep spreading cheer, and do visit the wildlife sanctuaries. They are open now with obviously all the safety protocols, and spot a tiger. Till then, we meet next. It's goodbye and good evening from Tiffin Talks. Thank you so much. Take care. Salam.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Okay.